Okay, sorry. We're running a few minutes. I was running a few minutes late. Not you, but I was sorry to have made you wait. Um, okay, so I was actually showing a buyer some properties here in Crown Heights, and it's very interesting because she's from out of town, and her mom wanted to is wanting to gift her the proceeds from a sale that the mom wants to sell some property and is gifting her daughter, her adult daughter, the cash with which to purchase something she can have for herself here in Brooklyn and hopefully generate an income from it. So I was truly impressed. That's quite generous for a parent to do for a child. And showed her some property, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so nobody's on yet, but that's cool because you can watch this on the replays. Today I wanted to come to talk to you about sellers. We'll talk about sellers today in this episode of Live. Sellers often, there are pitfalls that sellers run into, at least the sellers that I cater to. And what are those pitfalls? Well, sometimes sellers might feel that if they put money into their property, so if you want to sell your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, don't add money to the property. And I tell this to all my sellers. When you're ready to sell, it's an as-is deal. Nobody gets more money by dumping money into the property. And I'm speaking here in Brooklyn. In my job, meaning breaking the walls down, breaking everything, reconfiguring the rooms, then it doesn't add value to your property. Don't bother putting in a new kitchen. I was just speaking with a friend of mine over the weekend, and we were reminiscing about those who feel, oh, look, I'm going to put money into my kitchen, and then I'm going to add another $500,000. It doesn't work like that. And the reason is because the person who's buying it has their particular taste for a kitchen. They have the colors they like, or the style. Kitchen, there's no end to how you want to configure your kitchen. We can put islands, peninsulas. The sky's the limit, right? We can make people take a kitchen and make, some people's kitchen are bigger than their dining room. Let's face it. So depending on see if you're saying hi. So depending on how your buyer is going to utilize your property, don't put money into it. Don't put money, it's just literally money down the drain. So you may say, but Margula, if I want more money, what should I do? And my answer to that is, the way you will get top dollar is by hiring an agent, a hyperlocal agent, who is going to hype up your property and sell your property based on its location, its bones, and the third selling point, location, bones, and the third selling point is its air rights. What are air rights, you may say? Well, air rights is the ability to add floors to your property. You can go up, you can go back. Now here on the block that I'm in, on this block, Carroll Street, the air rights are 0. Okay, this is my block. We have 0 air rights. Why? Because historically it was deemed to, the powers that be wanted to preserve the height, the integrity of the neighborhood, and didn't want people to go too high or too deep. So that's would be a reason why there are certain blocks that you can't build. And in Crown Heights, it's very interesting because there are blocks like this block and the next block over, you can't build anything, but go down one more block and you can build up to the sky. And then there's an avenue like New York Avenue. One side of the avenue is R6 and the other side is R4. So one avenue, 2 sides, 2 different zones. But that's a different show. That's a different YouTube episode. So we're talking about pitfalls of a seller. You're putting your house on the market, don't add. It's not really going to get you more. And that's a common mistake that many of my sellers say, well, hey, Margula, well, what if I'm going to enhance my facade, or I'm going to do something for the curb appeal. Which my answer is, you're going to dump tens and thousands of dollars to enhance the curb appeal, and that's not the selling point. The selling point is location, bones, and air rights. So you can't really do anything about location, right? Your house is where it is. You can't do anything about the bones. A house has bones. The bones is how it's built. And the bones of the house is that something, like I said, usually brownstones have excellent bones. So if you're looking for off-the-chart bones, you're going to stick with brownstones. Location, you can't do anything about. Brownstone, either it's a brownstone or it's not. And then air rights, well, that's nothing you can do. That's the way it's zoned. So, and as I had mentioned in a previous episode, we're situated in a seller's market. I know that that's an anomaly with what's going on in other parts of the country. I am sensitive to that and aware. I don't take that for granted at all. But truth be told, my neighborhood of Brooklyn, the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, I guess you'd say we're in a bubble. It's a strong seller's market. What do I mean? It means if you're sitting on a brownstone in prime Crown Heights, you don't have to do a thing. Literally, you just have to decide when you're ready to sell. When you're ready to sell, I'll bring you your money. And you don't have to do anything at all. It could be a total gut job with nothing. It could be a shell, and you will still get top dollar, because our people who are ready to buy your property without any financing and take that property and do whatever they want with it. So in this particular neighborhood, a seller doesn't have to do anything. Again, I'm not speaking about sellers in the southeast of our country. In the southeast, I understand, like I said, I've mentioned this many times. I'm in a mastermind every morning, and we channel different ideas together. We bounce off of each other, and many of the agents they practice in the southeast, in Florida, Georgia, and what I'm hearing from them, yeah, they'll put some money in, they'll stage the property, some people even will gut the property for their sellers, they'll do complete renovations, and they'll get a lot more money because it's a buyer's market. Here, you don't have to worry about that. What the sellers here have to worry about are two things: clean title and vacancy. That's really all you need to worry about. So, we spoke a little bit, we chatted about what you don't have to do as a seller, and you don't have to throw money out the window by dumping it into your property in the hopes of getting more money. So let me just touch on that. Let me just dig a little deeper into what I just said, and then we'll move on. If a seller's, and you may say, but Margula, who cares? If you've got a seller and they're just itching to renovate their kitchen, who cares? Let them. Well, the problem with that is that if somebody's going to renovate their kitchen, that seller will not settle for a price that less than what they're imagining they're going to get, because in their minds they enhanced the property, when in reality they didn't enhance the property. Many of my buyers will tell me, Margula, we'd rather a property that is absolutely a blank canvas. They want the blank canvas because they want to do what they want to do with it. And if someone's going to invest money into their property, that seller's going to want to make more money, not only to cover what they did, but to profit on their enhancements. So that is, I can't promise that I'm going to get you a profit on what you pour into your property, because like I mentioned, that may not speak or resonate with the general buyer pool. And you want to be able to appeal to to everybody, right? You can't just appeal to one buyer, you want to appeal to many, so that you get your best offer, your highest and best. So to recap, do nothing. And that way, everyone is okay. They'll all come in and they'll do what they want. Now, there are there are buyers who are only seeking turnkey. Turnkey means that they literally have to do nothing. The buyer I was just working with this morning. She said, I don't want any construction. So for such a buyer, yes, there are properties, but if the properties that are going to appeal to such a buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you would have to do a complete renovation to appeal to that buyer. The risk of doing first of all, not everybody wants to be bothered doing a complete renovation. But even if you have an agent who says, hey, don't worry about it, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to take care of it. I'm handling it. I'm going to renovate it, make it spick and span, brand new. The risk is that you are going to have to charge a lot more money to make it to justify doing all that work. And when you take a property, the properties I showed her this morning were not in this area. It was in a lower price point, a different area. So if you take a property that's, say, under $1 million, you put in a couple $100,000, you can put it on the market for 1.2. That's fine. But taking a property that's in this area, that's 2.5 in its as-is condition, and you're gonna do a renovation, you won't settle for less than 3.5 minimum. The danger that you will run into, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that what if the person who is ready to pay 3.5 because they don't want to deal with any construction, they don't like your taste, or they have different ideas. They're going to have to redo it anyways. And I've had that. I've had buyers that paid top dollar and then tore everything down. Those buyers are few and far between. Not everyone has that much cash to put the 3.5 into a property that's already done and then start all over. So what you're doing is you're shrinking the buyer pool for that unicorn who's ready to pay top dollar and then do it over. So to get a wider pool, you want a wider pool, keep your property in its as-is condition. Trust me, I'm doing this a long time. And those who put money into their property, they generally don't profit. Unless their home is in a lower price point to start with, they could put money and they could enhance it and keep it still within the $1 million range. That's fine. But when you're in the $2 or $3 million price point and you can just do a gut reno, it's not gonna necessarily get your money. So I'm not saying never, but like I keep saying, you're shrinking the buyer pool. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's good to have a hard conversation with your broker, your hyper-local broker, your broker who has an intimate knowledge of what the homes are going for, both on market and off market, and why certain blocks, every block has a different price point, and the only one who's going to tell you that is a hyper-local agent. So, before putting your house on the market, have a hard conversation with your trusted broker and ask them, is it worth it? Should we put money into the property? Am I going to get exponentially more? And if they tell you yes, then you can do it. If they tell you no, listen to them, because generally your broker knows what they're talking about. So we're halfway through this program, and what I wanted to touch on was an interesting concept, which I think will blow your minds off for those who aren't aware of that. If you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so it can work both ways. It really works. It's not really going to happen in a seller's market. Like I said, right now, this neighborhood that I'm in, this particular neighborhood of Brooklyn is in a hot seller's market. We're in a bubble. But let's say you're watching this and you're in an area where it's a strong buyer's market. Beautiful. You, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what can you do to bring in the offers that you want? Let's say you're in an area where it pays to renovate the property. Wonderful. You renovated the property. Your broker advised you to redo your floors, paint the walls, break down some extra walls to give your house an open concept. Great. You did everything your broker told you. And yet, the offers aren't coming in. Remember, the majority of this country is in a buyer's market. So it's very possible that the offers that you're expecting are not pouring in. No fault of your broker. The market is the market, whatever, how the market is. We can't change the market. But a smart agent can work with the market. So you ask, but Margula, if the market is a buyer's market, I'm sitting in Tallahassee, Florida, and it's a strong buyer's market, and for every buyer, there are 5 properties on the market. What am I supposed to do? I don't want to give my house away. No one's telling you to give your house away. What you're gonna do is have your broker give your buyer a reverse offer. Have you heard the term reverse offer? It's a term I personally wasn't familiar with until I started this mastermind that I'm on every morning since COVID. So 5 years every morning, a bunch of us agents from all across the country and even some international, we chat from 7 to 9 a.m. We just chit chat and bounce off of each other and hear ideas that are being done in other parts of the world or the country or even in the same state. So what's a reverse offer? A reverse offer is you're going to give the buyer, if you're not getting the offers you want, then your agent will have a conversation with you and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, at what price are you what's your bottom price? And at what terms are you willing to sell your property? So you can give a price and you set the terms. Let's say you're not in a rush to close. Great. You can put the terms 60-day, 90-day close. But if you are in a rush to close, you might be willing to take a lower offer and say, hey, we want to close this in 30 days, contract to close, and we are willing to take a 10% cut in exchange for a 30-day cash deal. What I mean by cash, I don't mean coming to the closing table with a suitcase of cash. I mean remove all the financial contingencies. And that's an offer that your agent, your trusted broker, will give to the buyers. A buyer who's serious. Meaning, let's say your house is on the market for $500,000. You're in Tallahassee, Florida. Your house is on the market for $500,000. And for every vetted buyer, there's 5 also on the market. But let's say the others are on the market for $600. Yours is on the market for $500. But maybe that's not enough to get the buyers into your house and to write an offer on your house. So you can have your agent write an offer to those buyers, only to those buyers who show a strong interest in your property, but they're kind of on the fence because they may like the other properties, maybe they're larger, maybe they have more amenities, and they're not yet quite ready to pull the trigger on yours. So you have your listing agent give those buyers who are showing a strong interest a reverse offer. Instead of waiting for the buyer to come to you with an offer, you tell them, okay, this is how it's gonna play out. we're going to give you a 10% discount. That means we're going to give you off 50,000 for 450. You close this in 30 days, remove the contingencies, and it's yours for 450. You give that to the buyer, and then the buyer has something to work with. I'm like, okay, that now we're talking. They may say, hey, we'll take it at 450, but maybe we need 45 days. So then you could work out the deals. Real estate is the art of negotiation. There's really very little hard and fast rules and rules written in stone when it comes to negotiation. Everything is negotiable. Everything. As long as you play nice in the sandbox and you're ethical, there's not much that's not negotiable. So, for those in a buyer's market, have your agent present a reverse offer to those buyers who are seriously interested in your property, and then you can take it from there. And I personally never used it because, like I said, and like I keep saying, I'm in a strong seller's market for now, but I think we're in a bubble. And well, that's another conversation, why this particular neighborhood in Brooklyn is in a strong seller's market. We'll do it another time. I have my thoughts on that, and I'm sure you have yours. So if you're in a buyer's market, have your agent give the offer to the buyer rather than waiting for the buyer to give you the offer. And that works. Why does it work? Because it engages the buyer in a conversation and it gets the wheels turning. All right. We're at it for almost 23 minutes. I'm sorry, I wanted to bring you to my favorite hamburger joint, my kosher hamburger joint, but I guess we'll have to wait till next time because I was running late. And next time I'm gonna start the live sitting in the hamburger joint with a delicious kosher hamburger, a double-decker. And so this way, I could give you guys a tour, not just on the market and not just on the market and what houses are selling for, and whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, and tips and tricks of what to do. But I could also show you around and give you a taste test. Come around to my neighborhood and you're gonna see. You're gonna take a walk with me